This has come right from the horse's mouth, so to speak.
Do new revelations prove that Queen Elizabeth was angered by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle?
I just don't think she ever intended to stay in the royal family.
She fell out with late Queen Elizabeth II and was apparently rude to her for 10 minutes.
And I think, the fact that we can trust this information, which is so derogatory to Meghan, is very, very telling.
Is Meghan Markle in a jam?
Nobody inside that palace corridor will ever forget the moment the late Queen's trusted cousin leaned in and whispered, "Her Majesty thinks Meghan engineered the whole thing." Those 7 words shot through Windsor faster than a brisk January draft, rattling footmen, advisors, and even the corgis.
Talking about some dreadful press for Meghan Markle and terrible things that have appeared about her, or scandals that have occurred this year. I can't think of any worse one than what we've heard in the last couple of days.
Up until that point, the family still clung to the fairy tale idea. Bright Hollywood star marries grief-scarred prince. The firm gets a dazzling new chapter. Everybody lives happily ever after. Then came the leak, small, precise, and explosive. Overnight, the narrative flipped. Suddenly, Harry looked less like a bold modernizer and more like a man who had wagered the crown itself on whirlwind romance.
This has come right from the horse's mouth, so to speak. And I think, the fact that we can trust this information, which is so derogatory to Meghan, is very, very telling.
Courtiers started calling the incident the Smoking Teacup because it felt so genteel on the surface, yet scorched everyone who touched it. Insiders say the Queen's private anxiety focused on one haunting possibility. If Meghan never planned to stay, then Harry's sacrifice had already been banked, and the exit strategy was quietly ticking down in the background. Imagine the scene, a marble corridor outside the Oak Room, hush of muffled clocks, staff hovering while 2 senior royals discuss destiny like it's an annoying fly.
While Harry may love Meghan, they weren't convinced about her feeling towards him.
The Queen, steely but grandmother soft, apparently confessed she worried her grandson was neither bright nor strong enough to see he was being played. Allegedly, of course. Yet the phrase jolted decades of protocol. Monarchs are trained never to speak that bluntly about their own. Folks who heard secondhand gasped, then lowered their voices. If even the Queen is spooked, what aren't we seeing? At the heart of the drama sat the 10-minute encounter that blew the doors off royal optimism.
So interesting. And Richard, one of the claims is that Harry was, quote unquote, rude to the Queen for 10 minutes.
It happened just weeks before the cathedral bells, a private conversation meant to finalize details, smooth nerves, seal that legendary Windsor smile. Instead, according to Lady Elizabeth Anson's later account, Meghan stonewalled every gentle query about her wedding gown, swerved basic courtesies, and incredibly kept Her Majesty waiting for answers while she laid out her own terms. 10 minutes doesn't sound long on paper, but palace aides claim it stretched like wet paint. By the time Meghan swept out, the Queen's ladies-in-waiting were exchanging the kind of tight-lipped glances that signal DEFCON 1 in royal land. That was the instant, they say, the sovereign's faith cracked. From then on, she watched, cautious, weighing every Meghan move against the House of Windsor's survival.
Very disappointingly, she started to have her doubts about her, and I think it ruined her relationship with Harry, which was a very close one. She claimed that she was rude to her for 10 minutes. She wouldn't tell her details of her wedding dress. She couldn't understand why she wouldn't talk about that.
Word of the Queen's private doubts seeped through the walls, down to the kitchens, across the stables. Harry never sensed the chill. Love can be a thick fog, yet the staff did. They whispered that the fair-haired prince was gambling a 1,000-year institution on a romance measured in months. And the scariest part, he seemed eager to double down. But that was only the beginning. He ignored every yellow flag like a knight galloping past warning banners. Convinced the treasure at the end would fix all past heartbreak, friends tried subtle hints, then louder interventions. "Mate, slow down. You barely know her," whispered one former army pal over pints at a Kensington pub. Harry waved it off, eyes sparkling in that unmistakable just-met-my-soulmate glaze. Within barely half a year, he was arranging candlelit dinners at Nottingham Cottage that looked lifted from a Hallmark finale. Courtiers who had handled decades of royal romances muttered that even Edward and Wallace had taken longer to plan their revolution. But Harry seemed propelled by 2 forces, the looming 30th-something birthday he dreaded, and the memory of every girlfriend who bolted once the flashbulbs got too bright.
It was all about, essentially, it was sort of Meghan's sense of entitlement. She was sort of demanding, I want this or that.
He was determined not to lose this one, even if it meant sprinting down the aisle before anyone could scream slow-motion car crash. Insiders recall the night William tapped on his brother's cottage door after dinner, cheeks flushed from the chilly palace grounds, voice low to avoid eavesdropping staff. He pleaded, Give it a year, just a year, so she understands the cage before you lock yourselves inside. Harry, already rehearsing proposal lines, bristled. He heard judgment, maybe even jealousy. William walked home under the lime trees believing he had failed, and that failure would haunt both brothers for years. Meanwhile, Meghan adjusted quicker than anyone expected. She memorized staff names, quoted Commonwealth reports, and delivered speeches with the teleprompter turned off. Aides were dazzled, right until the moments she pushed back on age-old customs. One flustered protocol officer revealed she requested personal say over every press caption, an unheard-of demand for a royal fiancé. Another advisor claimed she floated the idea of live-streaming portions of the wedding planning to modernize transparency. That suggestion was logged, politely thanked, and buried under a mountain of never-to-be-seen memos.
It was all about, essentially, it was sort of Meghan's sense of entitlement. She was sort of demanding, I want this or that.
Yet Harry took each bold ask as proof of brilliance. He reportedly told a senior equerry, "This is the woman who will drag this place into the modern century." Drag was the word that stuck. Some staff began to fear they were all about to be pulled rather than led. Even the Queen's right-hand dresser, Angela Kelly, felt tension while arranging tiara fittings, whispers of late-night calls, scheduling clashes, and that infamous remark about tights and hems. One footman summed it up darkly: "Love is blind. The question is whether the monarchy can see." Still, the Sussex fairy tale surged forward. Engagement photos lit up every front page, approval ratings soared, and Harry believed the skeptics were officially silenced. He poured champagne in the cottage kitchen and toasted to a lifetime inside palace walls. But the sparkle of new love would soon be tested, first on that royal train to Chester, where Meghan's honeymoon phase with the Queen began, and where tiny cracks threatened to widen into canyons. Whispers say the Chester trip was crafted as a PR masterstroke, a gentle country excursion meant to seal a grandmother-in-law bond and soothe any lingering palace jitters. Meghan stepped aboard the royal train before dawn, sunlight barely hinting at the horizon, wearing a perfectly tailored cream sheath that drew approving nods from veteran couriers. Staff later confessed they were half relieved, half bewitched. The new Duchess chatted breezily with footmen, laughed at ancient carriage decor, and thanked everyone by name. The ice, it appeared, had thawed.
I just don't think she ever intended to stay in the royal family.
I don't think she fully understood or was even interested in what the role was supposed to become.
During the journey north, she and the Queen shared tea, shortbread, and a private chuckle over tabloid headlines predicting disaster. Onlookers glimpsed a shawl moment. The sovereign draped a light wool rug over Meghan's knees when the carriage chilled. Cameras captured it, and for 24 hours the world hailed the scene as proof the monarchy had entered a golden, inclusive era. Yet behind those gleaming smiles ran an undercurrent only insiders felt. A private secretary noticed Meghan toggling between charm and quiet calculation, jotting notes about speech cues, schedule gaps, crowd interaction tips. One aide remarked she moves like a seasoned producer scanning a set. Admirable perhaps, but unnerving in a house that prizes deference over direction. As they reached the new Mersey Gateway Bridge for the ribbon cutting, Meghan held back slightly, then surged forward to greet officials before the Queen had fully stepped out. The timing mishap turned into a minor scramble of umbrellas and floral arrangements. Local press barely clocked it, yet palace watchers raised brows. Tradition dictates the monarch leads every public engagement dance. Meghan had allegedly attempted her own choreography. Later at Chester Town Hall, she delivered impromptu remarks thanking community volunteers. Reporters swooned at her natural warmth. No notes, no stumble. But a senior press officer fretted that she had veered off approved talking points, hinting at future charity projects across the Commonwealth without clearance. It sounded visionary to listeners, yet to palace planners it risked over-promising resources and reigniting the colonial debate they carefully manage. After the event, the Queen's equerry quietly suggested she route such aspirations through official channels first.
And to be honest, it confirms what we'd already suspected, that that at first the Queen was very keen on Meghan. She welcomed her. She thought she'd be great. And then slowly but surely, like a lot of other people, she saw a different side to her.
Meghan, smiling, agreed, but sources swear her eyes flashed determination rather than contrition. By evening, the pair boarded the train south. Meghan posted a handwritten thank you note to the conductor, a gesture staff praised over supper. Still, a mid-level protection officer logged a terse memo. Duchess, highly dynamic, requires clear protocol briefings before future solo engagements. That single line circulated through internal email like a canary warning in a coal mine. On the surface, the Chester visit cemented a glittering alliance. 2 women, 2 generations, 1 unstoppable brand. Deep inside Windsor, however, that day signaled a new reality. Meghan could outshine anyone in the room, including the monarch herself, and she might not wait for permission. The Queen returned to London, pondering whether brilliance without restraint could become the family's greatest liability. But tension would spike to full alert when the wedding week tiara clash exploded into public myth, revealing just how fierce the battle over sparkle, status, and control could get. The countdown to Windsor turned manic, and nowhere did the stakes feel sharper than inside Angela Kelly's jewel-filled workroom, a sanctuary where diadems sleep in velvet cradles. Meghan swept in for her final fitting, eager to seal her fairy tale shimmer. The Queen had already approved a delicate diamond bandeau, but Meghan allegedly wanted a last-minute trial with emeralds rumored to have murky Russian provenance. Angela, guardian of crown jewels and protocol alike, refused. She explained, gently but firmly, that unvetted gems never leave the vault. Witnesses claim Meghan's smile froze then thinned. A senior dresser recalls the air-turning, knife-edge Arctic. Moments later, Harry burst in, voice echoing off marble, insisting, what Meghan wants, Meghan gets. Angela held her ground, citing heritage rules signed by monarchs long before either Sussex was born. Word of the standoff rocketed through corridors and landed on the Queen's desk before supper. Her response, allegedly delivered with calm steel, was short, she will wear what she is given. That sentence ricocheted straight back to Nottingham Cottage, where it hit a prince still crackling with adrenaline.
And she remarked that Harry was perhaps a little bit too much in love, was possibly besotted and a bit weak.
The next morning, Harry sought an audience with his grandmother, determined to plead his fiancée's case. Courtiers describe a 10-minute talk in the Oak Room that began polite and spiraled fast. Harry pushed, saying the institution must modernize. The Queen, already uneasy after Chester, reminded him monarchy survives on discipline. He pushed harder. She grew icy. A footman outside swore he heard a teacup clink louder than etiquette allows. When the door reopened, Harry left first, red-faced, strides militant. The Queen remained seated, lips tight, corgi at her feet like a furry security blanket. Lady Elizabeth Anson later confided that Her Majesty felt shaken by her grandson's tone and by Meghan's perceived disregard for royal boundaries. That single conversation, insiders say, snapped the sovereign's patience like a dry twig. From then on, she monitored wedding prep with forensic focus, assigning extra private secretaries to track every Sussex request. Yet to the public, the pageantry glowed flawless. Choir soaring, carriages gleaming, Meghan's veil floating like spun sugar. Only those backstage saw the thin cracks beneath the icing. Angela Kelly, usually serene, downed chamomile between cued entrances. Florists whispered that last-minute changes doubled their workload. Even the Archbishop braced for curveballs after being asked, 3 days prior, to bless a private garden ceremony, an awkward rehearsal that later fed the Oprah narrative of a secret wedding. Still, when the Duke and Duchess emerged on those St. George's Chapel steps, the roar was thunder. For a fleeting afternoon, it seemed love had triumphed over tension. But seasoned courtiers exhaled with relief rather than joy, because they sensed the newlyweds were already plotting a path that might veer far beyond Windsor's reach. And the first to feel that seismic shift would be Prince William, caught between brotherly loyalty and institutional duty, barreling toward the confrontation that would split the House of Windsor in two. Prince William tried to keep it in-house, like an engineer shoring up a cracking dam before the villagers noticed the leaks. He invited Harry to apartment 1A for a quiet supper. No press officers, no hovering aides, just 2 brothers and a roast chicken. Catherine had lovingly seasoned. The plan was simple: remind Harry of childhood escapades, slip in gentle questions about future plans, and maybe, just maybe, slow the runaway train. Instead, it derailed in under 15 minutes. Harry arrived wired, fresh from another tabloid firestorm claiming Meghan was terrorizing staff. William opened with concern. How are you both holding up? But Harry heard judgment. Voices rose, chairs scraped, and Catherine's famous roast sat cooling while a decade of bottled resentment boiled over. By dessert time, which never came, William's plea to pace yourselves sounded in Harry's ears like a lecture on gratitude from a brother who would one day wear the crown.
Where she fell out with late Queen Elizabeth II and was apparently rude to her for 10 minutes.
Days later, the tension bled into bridesmaid fittings. Charlotte's tiny satin shoes pinched, the hemlines refused to lie flat, and Meghan allegedly demanded the dress be remade by morning. Catherine, deep into postpartum fatigue, suggested mild alterations instead of full reconstruction. Texts flew, misunderstandings multiplied, and various sources claim Meghan told Catherine she must be suffering from baby brain. Catherine burst into tears, or Meghan did, depending on which aide you believe. 2 senior staffers were dispatched to mediate a bridal meltdown over miniature tights. By the time they left, both duchesses had apologized, yet the wound lingered like a stinging paper cut ready to reopen whenever the wind changed. William, now convinced Harry was blinded by adoration, approached their father for guidance. Charles advised patience. The Queen advised prayer, but William felt a ticking bomb in his gut. He confided to a friend that palace culture only works when everyone accepts the script, and the Sussexes, as he put it, keep ad-libbing new scenes. Publicly, he smiled for cameras. Privately, he tasked aides with scenario planning. What if they move abroad? What if they reject the rota? What if they commercialize the crown? The contingency files grew thick. Meanwhile, Meghan and Harry shifted from palace courtyards to rented cottages, where lawyers reviewed trademark documents for a new foundation. Insiders claim Meghan asked whether Sussex Goods could carry her own calligraphy logo logo, wax seals on honey jars, monograms on yoga mats, a lifestyle empire rivaling Gwyneth Paltrow. A brand consultant pitched California Sunshine as the aesthetic. Harry nodded, imagining simplicity, not seeing the inevitable clash with Buckingham austerity. After the wedding high, the brothers barely spoke without aides present. Aides who once served both households started choosing sides, swapping desks between Kensington and newly renovated Frogmore. Staff Christmas parties grew awkward. One footman said it felt like children dividing parents in a messy divorce. Through it all, Harry insisted love would conquer doubt. William feared love alone could not rewrite centuries of duty. And while the heir calculated damage control, Meghan sketched an even bolder horizon: an Africa tour confession, secret trademark filings, a Netflix whisper, setting the stage for the audacious exit few inside Windsor thought possible. The moment came on a balmy Johannesburg evening when Harry turned to camera and admitted with a strange half-smile that life inside the royal fishbowl was a matter of constant management. Viewers thought it was a throwaway line. Palace veterans recognized code. It was the opening argument for an exit already drafted in legal pads. Days earlier, Meghan had stood under pale African moonlight telling the same film crew, voice quivering, that no one had asked if she was okay. Insiders swear that off-screen she added a brutal coda, "and no one ever will as long as we stay." Those words never aired, yet they reverberated through Kensington WhatsApp chats like a muted siren. The Africa tour, once billed as a Commonwealth love fest, morphed into a televised therapy session announcing, in polite undertones, that the Sussexes were done playing by the firm's emotional silence rule. Back in Frogmore, while tabloids dissected every tearful close-up, trademark attorneys worked overtime. They filed applications for a Sussex Royal charity, a Sussex Royal clothing line, even a Sussex Royal stationery set. One paralegal later confessed it felt less like a philanthropic venture and more like prepping a parachute stitched from royal crests.
Being manipulated by Meghan, and I think, unfortunately, that confirms what I've been saying or thought for the last few years.
The speed was dizzying. 20 separate categories submitted in a fortnight, each one hinting at a future where royal would travel on tote bags and scented candles far beyond palace gates. When bureaucrats warned the word royal might be stripped if the couple detached from official duties, Meghan allegedly shrugged, "Then we rebrand." Confidence or contingency, no one could tell. Netflix smelled opportunity before the ink dried. Executives flew from Los Angeles to Windsor under the guise of touring historical sites, but really came to gauge rebel sparkle. Over herbal tea in a private drawing room, they pitched a new narrative: freedom, authenticity, modern love without the corset of protocol. Meghan listened, pen tapping gently. Harry, exhausted by headlines, heard promise in the phrase editorial control. That meeting, sources claim, was the seed that blossomed into a 9-figure production deal months later. Meanwhile, William watched the broadcast of his brother's tear-stained confession and felt the ground tilt. He dialed Harry immediately. No aides, no scripts. Reports vary. Some say Harry ignored the call, others say he answered, but the chat devolved into raw accusation. Either way, the brothers emerged convinced they now spoke different dialects of duty. Palace courtiers began drafting plans titled Autumn Contingency, outlining scenarios if the Sussexes demanded part-time monarchy, if they bolted to Canada, or if they set sail for good. Through it all, Meghan maintained a public smile, gliding through engagements with that Hollywood poise, while privately mapping zip codes with robust privacy laws and nearby media hubs. Harry, newly protective father, scoped Canadian coastal hideaways. To the outside world, they were simply taking family time. To insiders, they were writing the first chapter of a post-royal playbook. And once the Californian sun beckoned, the Montecito experiment would reveal just how thin the line is between passion project and pricey pastime. California welcomed them with eucalyptus breezes and gated driveways, so long you could forget the paparazzi entirely. Montecito became the Sussex refuge, a place where security patrols cost more per month than most British villagers earn in a year. Yet neighbors wave like it is sleepy suburbia. Harry found solace in feeding chickens rescued from battery farms. Meghan found a canvas in 9 sprawling bedrooms, waiting for curated neutrality. They installed lavender hedges, Himalayan salt lamps, even a custom yoga pavilion so private drones could not peek. Friends who visited said it felt less like a royal exile and more like an influencer's paradise, with baby grand pianos strategically positioned for Zoom calls. Then came the business blitz. First was the podcast. Big fanfare, bigger expectations, but after a single star-studded episode, the upload schedule fizzled. Spotify executives allegedly counted silence in dollars and quietly hit pause. Next was Netflix. Producers shuffled camera crews through chicken coops and therapy sofas, filming heart-to-hearts that stretched into 6-hour editing nightmares. The resulting docuseries delivered record streams, yet reviews labeled it gorgeous grievance. Insiders at the streamer muttered about massive overheads and meager follow-ups. Still, the couple's contract reportedly remains intact, a monument to Hollywood optimism. Meanwhile, Meghan pivoted to domestic goddess. She unveiled an apricot spread, small batch crafted with California love. Reality check. Investigative snoops discovered it was mass-produced in Illinois, 2,000 miles east, then poured into Lux jars stamped with her calligraphy. The first drop sold out. Of course it did. There were whispers only a few hundred jars existed. Customers who snagged one bragged online until emails arrived offering refunds because supply had, surprise, evaporated.
Some fans who managed to snag Meghan's apricot spread are now being told their orders can't be fulfilled. The company says demand was higher than expected, and they're going to have to issue refunds. In an email to customers, they wrote, "Due to high demand, we are unable to fulfill your order of the apricot spread at this time. We are refunding your purchase by the end of this week."
The Duchess soothed fans with promises of a complimentary second jar that months later still rides the postal ether, but the pièce de résistance was the rosé. Launch date, the late Princess Diana's birthday. Price, roughly $30 a bottle. Marketing hook, light notes of peach and nostalgia. The backlash erupted within minutes, critics calling it tone-deaf, tasteless, bordering on sacrilege given Diana's tragic car crash linked to drink. Sources close to Prince William hinted he rolled his eyes and moved on, but Courtiers saw the timing as proof Meghan's brand machine prioritizes viral shock over sensitive scheduling. Still, every bottle vanished in under an hour because scarcity prints money faster than vineyards grow grapes. Here is the twist. None of those hiccups dent the Montecito dream. The estate remains fully staffed, the security convoy unshaken, and the yoga pavilion perfumed with Palo Santo. A Hollywood financier summed it up at a charity gala. They can swing and miss forever. The stakes are emotional, not financial. That reality fuels palace frustration. Without fiscal jeopardy, critics argue, Meghan can test projects like a chef sampling sauces, discard what curdles, keep what trends. While Sussex ventures chase vibes over viability, William is crafting a different playbook across the Atlantic, one built on decisive cuts, pothole fixes, and transparency pledges designed to outshine the California experiment. And as the Prince of Wales tightens his focus, his brother's midnight doubts begin to echo louder through the silent Montecito halls. Across the Atlantic, the future king is staging a quiet revolution. No glossy jars, no drone-shot docu-series, just brisk deeds that land like hammer blows on the anvil of public opinion. It began when he learned an art world socialite was touting £20,000 access passes to an upcoming charity polo match featuring his name. Palace aides waited for the usual committee consultations, but William moved quicker than an umpire's whistle. He read the Sunday report at breakfast, phoned his private secretary, and within 2 hours the donor's invitation was rescinded, sponsorship strip-mined from the event program. Courtiers whispered they had never seen a Windsor cut ties so fast. The message was unmistakable. No one monetizes proximity to the Prince of Wales. Days later, he turned to Cornwall, where dispatches revealed hospitals and small nonprofits bled sizable rents to his duchy estate. William ordered an immediate audit and announced the rent on charitable leases would be slashed by 1/2. Critics grumbled it was reactive PR. Supporters countered that action is action, and the beneficiaries could hardly care less about motive when their overheads just shrank overnight. A hospice trustee told local radio they nearly cried with relief. William declined comment. He prefers outcomes to applause. An aide quipped, "Then came the potholes." Tiny Mousehole, pronounced Mosul, was watching its football club gamble every away match on tortuous lane journeys that snapped axles and dented exhausts. A Cornish volunteer emailed the duchy in desperation, never expecting a reply. Within a fortnight, William convened a miniature task force, local quarry for asphalt civil engineers volunteering after hours, a duchy backhoe loaned free of charge. The holes were filled in 2 days. The club tweeted gratitude, and national papers ran sunlit photos of villagers high-fiving next to fresh tarmac. It cost less than one Montecito security invoice, yet radiated goodwill through every parish newsletter in the county.
Meghan's also promising them a free jar. But like Rita, there's a severe difference between hype or exclusivity and operational and logistical failure, and Meghan Markle is the latter.
Observers note a new pattern. William spots reputational brushfires before they blaze, stomps them out, and plants a sapling in the ash. He has even started trial runs of radical transparency, publishing duchy environmental audits, inviting school children to view farm carbon trackers, talking homelessness targets with ex-Prime Minister Gordon Brown. The press still howls for his exact tax bill, but William gambles that consistent public service will outrank salary gossip. "Judge me by the projects, not the pay stub," he reportedly told a confidant. Inside palace walls, aides compare the brothers like diverging brands. Montecito sells curated confession. Kensington sells results you can stand on, drive over, or sleep beneath. One senior courtier framed it more bluntly. California markets image, William markets impact. That contrast grows starker with every Sussex lifestyle launch and every Cornish pothole patched, widening the chasm that once was a carefree childhood gap between two boys kicking footballs at Highgrove. Yet as William's popularity quietly stabilizes, Montecito nights grow longer for Harry. Friends whisper. He paces the grand hallway while Meghan drafts the next venture, wondering in the stillness whether palace bridges can ever be rebuilt, if he even wants them rebuilt, and fearing what the answer might cost his children. Because when the lights dim and the cameras stop recording, regret has a way of marching in like an uninvited ghost. Silence in Montecito is not like silence at Kensington. In California, it comes thick and humming. Crickets outside, smart home fans inside, the faint ocean hush that used to lull Harry to sleep. Lately, it keeps him awake. Staff say he wanders the corridor after midnight, bare feet on cool stone, staring at framed photos of his mother smiling on African trips and wondering if she would have understood the gamble he took. He flicks through his phone, scrolls headlines painting him as outsider prince, taps out messages he never sends. One old friend describes late-night calls filled with half-finished sentences and sudden pauses, as though Harry is fighting to remember who he was before the echo chamber of exile. Insiders reveal he has tried sporadic olive branch texts to William, short, tentative lines about the children, a funny memory, a Cornish joke, but replies arrive curt and daylight polite. Charles is warmer yet still guards boundaries. Palace aides schedule Zoom slots like diplomatic summits, and every chat veers toward Frosty once duty or money enters the frame. Harry ends those calls pressing leave meeting, then stares at his reflection on the blackened screen. He used to dream of carving a role half in, half out, but that bridge burned the night his grandmother quietly ruled the word royal off limits to private ventures. Now he is neither soldier prince nor full civilian, trapped in a bespoke limbo with panoramic views. The memoir's aftershocks have not helped. Publishers wanted scorched earth. Harry offered vulnerability. But even soft grenades leave craters. Certain passages about frostbitten peaks and knocked-over dog bowls still circulate at palace drinks parties, eliciting sighs and eye rolls in equal measure. Courtiers note that with every revelation the path home narrows, yet Harry's revenue options widen only if he stays revelatory.
I love how they're selling this as that demand is just so high, as if they can't. I mean, what sort of a operation has she got that she can't manufacture a few more jam jars? I mean, we're not talking about a complicated product here.
It is a catch-22 scripted in gold ink. Keep sharing, keep earning, but keep sealing off reconciliation. Meanwhile, Meghan scripts forward momentum. She hosts branding Zooms, tests new scents for candle lines, plots children's content with West Coast producers. Her focus is tomorrow's launch, not yesterday's doubt. Harry loves that drive, but at 2 in the morning drive can feel like distance. A security guard working the graveyard shift confided he once glimpsed the Duke standing alone by the chicken coop, hands on hips, exhaling clouds of frustration into the moonlight. The guard asked if everything was all right. Harry answered with a half-laugh, half-groan. "Mate, I can't even explain my life in one sentence anymore." Friends back in Britain wish he would drop in for a pint. Just the lads, no PR teams. Yet travel feels politically radioactive. One wrong pub sighting sparks tabloids declaring a secret summit. One stiff upper lip family lunch becomes clickbait about icy showdowns. So he stays put, letting regrets ricochet inside high ceilings while the world outside labels him beyond royal, beyond rogue, simply irrelevant. But irrelevance is not the final chapter, because legacy still hangs in the balance, and the chessboard of history is rearranging faster than ever. The question now, did Harry and Meghan trade a 1,000-year throne for a 5-year headline, or is a comeback twist still waiting in the wings? The verdict will shape Windsor, Hollywood, and every scrap of gossip in between. History loves neat endings, but the Windsor saga refuses tidy bows. On one side of the Atlantic, King Charles prunes ancestral budgets, retires the royal train, and whispers about opening more palace rooms to tourists who will Instagram the very ceilings once reserved for emperors. Beside him stands a resilient queen consort working overtime to keep public affection steady, while Catherine, elegant yet visibly fragile, redefines bravery with every candid update on her healing journey. William, now commanding the duchy's billions like a mission-driven entrepreneur, patches roads, audits carbon, and slashes rents, building a ledger of tangible wins that could shore up the monarchy for the next half-century. Courtiers breathe easier each time a headline reads "Prince fixes" rather than "Prince feuds." Across an ocean, the Sussex experiment hovers between pioneering and precarious. Netflix awaits fresh content that can outshine grievance. Spotify has already walked away, and the lifestyle brand cycles through buzz drops that entertain social media for exactly one news cycle. Friends insist another reinvention is in the pipeline. Children's animation, documentary exposés, mindfulness retreats, but investors now ask the hard questions once muffled by celebrity sparkle. What is the mission? What is the market? What happens if the world stops clicking? Even in sun-drenched Montecito, the forecast can change with a single algorithm tweak. Meanwhile, critics reread Lady Elizabeth's confidences, weighing whether the Queen's private doubts have become prophecy. Was Meghan's master plan a strategic exit all along, or simply an actress's instinct to pivot when the script turns hostile? Did Harry make the greatest romantic leap of modern royal history, or did he unknowingly place his heritage on a roulette wheel still spinning? 5 years after that fairy tale carriage ride, the crown sits heavier on everyone's head, even those who fled its weight. Yet legacies are not inked in first drafts. Dynasties reinvent, exiles return, public mood swings faster than the news cycle that feeds it. One heartfelt transatlantic apology could reset decades of damage. One fresh scandal in London could nudge sympathy back toward California. The monarchy itself has survived abdications, divorces, fires, and televised confessions. It may absorb this seismic rift too, reshaping around the absence like a tree bending around a missing branch. so the question lingers like incense in St. George's Chapel. Did Prince Harry sacrifice a 1,000-year birthright for a romance destined to wander? Or is the Sussex story only at its midpoint, poised for a twist no pundit sees coming? Drop your thoughts below, like, subscribe, and stay tuned. The next video is waiting, and you will not believe what is coming next.